Hey guys, tonight we begin with the dusty, dangerous, and definitely not romantic reality of life in the American Wild West. That mythical land of cowboys, saloons, and sunset shootouts that Hollywood has been lying to you about for over a century. Turns out the Old West was less about heroic gunslingers and more about dysentery, dust storms, and wondering if that pain in your tooth was going to kill you before the cholera did. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You've seen the movies. John Wayne swaggering through swinging saloon doors, Clint Eastwood squinting at high noon, cowboys riding off into painted sunsets. It all looks so romantic, so free, so full of adventure and possibility. Well, congratulations, you've just woken up in Dodge City, Kansas in the year 1875. The good news, you're in the most famous cow town of the Wild West during its absolute peak. The bad news, you're about to discover why the average life expectancy out here is 35. And that's if you're lucky enough to avoid the bullets, the diseases, and the truly spectacular ways the frontier has of killing you. The first thing that hits you isn't the adventure. It's the smell. A thick, overwhelming assault on your nostrils that makes a medieval tavern seem like a Bath and Body Works. It's a complex bouquet of horse manure, human sweat, rotting garbage, leather, gunpowder, and about 3,000 cattle that just finished a 2-month journey from Texas. They're penned on the edge of town, bellowing and defecating with an enthusiasm that would impress a medieval peasant. The wind, when it's not carrying dust that could sandblast paint off a barn, helpfully distributes this aromatic symphony directly into your face. You're lying on what the boarding house owner generously called a bed, but which more accurately resembles a torture device designed by someone who really hated the human spine. It's a thin straw mattress, yes, straw, just like your medieval ancestors enjoyed, placed on wooden slats that have all the give of a concrete sidewalk. The mattress itself is lumpy, probably infested with bed bugs, definitely infested with fleas, and has suspicious stains that you're choosing not to think about too hard. No memory foam here. No thread count to speak of. Just you, some compressed plant matter, and the faint but persistent feeling that something is crawling on you. Because something definitely is. The boarding house room you're renting for the princely sum of 50 cents a night, about $15 in modern money, which sounds cheap until you realize you're making maybe $1 a day if you're lucky, is approximately the size of a modern walk-in closet. The walls are thin enough that you can hear every snore, cough, argument, and questionable activity from the neighboring rooms. Privacy? That's for rich folks back east. Here, you're sharing your 8x10 palace with 2 other men you've never met before, because the boarding house owner believes in maximizing profits, not comfort. There's one window, mercifully, though calling it glass is generous. It's more like a greasy, semi-transparent suggestion of glass that lets in just enough gray dawn light to remind you that yes, you do have to get up and face another day in paradise. The window doesn't close properly. Nothing in the Wild West closes properly, which means you've spent the night breathing in a delightful mixture of cattle smell, coal smoke from the stoves, and whatever your roommate had for dinner last night. Spoiler, it was beans. It's always beans. Speaking of your roommates, one of them is already awake. You know this because he's currently engaged in his morning ablutions, which consist of hawking up what sounds like half a lung into the communal spittoon. The other is still snoring with the volume and rhythm of a steam engine with bronchitis. Neither of them smells like they've seen soap this month. This year, possibly. Your mouth tastes like you've been chewing on the business end of a horse. Your back feels like it's been personally hammered by John Henry himself. And your hair? Well, let's just say it's achieved a level of grease that modern hair product companies would charge $50 a bottle for. Time to start your day in the Wild West. And friend, this is the good part. It only gets worse from here. All right, partner, time to drag yourself out of that straw-filled nightmare and face the morning. But first, you need to deal with the pressing biological realities of being a human being who's just spent 8 hours horizontal. In your modern life, this means padding to a clean bathroom, maybe checking your phone while you do your business. In the Wild West, oh, sweet summer child, your first stop is the outhouse, located a convenient 50 yards behind the boarding house. Why so far? Well, you'll understand when you get there. You stumble down the narrow stairs, trying not to wake the other dozen residents who are sleeping off last night's whiskey, and push open the back door into the crisp morning air. It's 5:30 a.m. The sun isn't quite up yet, and the temperature is a balmy 38 degrees Fahrenheit. You're wearing your union suit, that's your underwear, a full-body contraption that's basically a onesie for adults, and your boots. Nothing else, because nobody has time for modesty when nature calls this urgently. The path to the outhouse is a treacherous obstacle course of mud, suspicious puddles, and what you're pretty sure is a drunk cowboy who didn't quite make it back to his bunk last night. You hop, skip, and jump your way to the small wooden structure that serves as the communal toilet for about 30 people. The smell hits you from 10 feet away. It's not just bad. It's weaponized. It's the kind of smell that has physical presence, that reaches out and slaps you across the face like an angry saloon girl. You open the door to the outhouse and immediately regret every life choice that led you to this moment. Inside is a simple wooden bench with a hole cut in it, positioned over a pit that hasn't been emptied in. You don't want to know. There's no toilet paper. Toilet paper, as you know it, won't be widely available until the 1890s. Instead, there's a bucket of corn cobs. Yes, corn cobs. Used ones go in the other bucket. If you're lucky, there might be some old newspaper or a Sears catalog, but this early in the morning, previous visitors have already claimed the good pages. The ones with the ladies' undergarments are always the first to go. You do what you need to do, trying not to breathe through your nose, trying not to think about what's lurking in that pit below you, trying not to imagine what diseases are currently attempting to colonize your nethers. Fun fact, one of the leading causes of death in the Wild West was dysentery, often contracted from poor sanitation. That outhouse you're sitting in? It's probably located too close to the well water. But hey, what's a little fecal contamination between friends? Business completed. You trudge back to the boarding house for the next stage of your morning routine, washing up. And by washing up, I mean splashing your face with water from a communal basin that's already been used by 3 other people this morning. The water is gray. It has things floating in it, but it's wet, and that's about all you can ask for. There's one small mirror in the common room, cracked and spotted with age, fought over by everyone trying to get ready for the day. You catch a glimpse of yourself and barely recognize the person staring back. Your hair is matted and greasy, standing up in directions that defy physics. Your face is covered in a fine layer of dust that's worked its way into every pore. Your teeth. Oh God, your teeth. Dental hygiene in the Wild West makes medieval oral care look positively advanced. There are no toothbrushes as you know them. Some folks use twigs or rough cloths to scrub their teeth. The wealthy might have tooth powder made from chalk, brick dust, or crushed charcoal. You, being a regular working stiff, get to rinse your mouth with water and hope for the best. Your breath could strip paint. Your teeth feel like they're wearing tiny sweaters. And that molar that's been bothering you? In a world where the local barber doubles as the dentist and his main tool is a pair of pliers, you're just gonna live with that pain until it either goes away or kills you. Shaving is another adventure entirely. If you're a man, you have two choices: grow a beard like everyone else, or risk your life with a straight razor. There's no safety razor. That won't be invented until 1901. Just you, a blade sharp enough to split a hair, and hands that are shaking from last night's rock gut whiskey. The shaving soap, if you can afford it, is harsh lye-based stuff that burns like hellfire. Most men just use regular soap, or water, or spit. The results are predictable: nicks, cuts, and the occasional "oops, I just opened a major artery." If you're a woman, morning hygiene is even more complicated. Your hair, which hasn't been properly washed in weeks, because who has time to heat enough water and dry hair that reaches your waist, needs to be wrestled into submission. You use a brush that's seen better days, working through tangles that could stop a bullet. Hairpins are precious commodities, bent and rebent until they snap. There's no deodorant, no perfume, except what the wealthy can afford. Nothing to mask the fact that everyone smells like a barnyard animal on its worst day. You splash more of that gray water on your face, run your fingers through your hair in a futile attempt to tame it, and call it good enough. You're as clean as you're going to get, which is to say, not very. But here's the thing. Everyone else is in the same boat, or rather, the same outhouse. Standards are different when the whole town smells like a cow's backside. Time to get dressed, and this, friend, is where things get interesting. Because your clothes aren't just dirty. They're archaeological. They have layers. Geological strata of sweat, dust, food stains, and things you'd rather not identify. But they're all you've got, so on they go. Now that you've completed your morning ablutions, and I use that term generously, it's time to get dressed for another thrilling day of not dying in the Wild West. Your wardrobe options are somewhat limited by the fact that you own exactly two sets of clothes. One for working, which is what you're about to put on, and one for special occasions, which in practice means funerals and getting married, both of which happen with alarming frequency out here. Let's start with your undergarments. That union suit you're wearing? It's been on your body for about a week straight. In the Wild West, most folks own one, maybe two sets of underwear. Washing them means stripping naked while they dry, which in a boarding house full of strangers is about as appealing as volunteering for a root canal from the local barber. So you wear them until they can practically walk themselves to the wash basin. The union suit is made of wool or cotton, depending on your financial situation and the season. Right now it's spring, so you're in cotton, which sounds comfortable until you realize it's been absorbing your body's various secretions for 7 days straight. It's no longer white. It's more of a grayish brown, with exciting patches of yellow under the arms and other areas. It itches. Sweet Lord, does it itch. But that's just life in the frontier. Over the union suit go your pants. If you're a working man, these are likely canvas or denim. Yes, denim, which was just becoming popular thanks to a Bavarian immigrant named Levi Strauss. These pants have seen things, done things. They're so stiff with accumulated dirt and sweat that they could probably stand up on their own. They're patched in a dozen places because new pants cost almost a week's wages, and they're held up with suspenders because belts are for fancy folks. Your shirt is wool or cotton, depending on what you could afford 6 months ago when you bought it. It used to be blue, or maybe gray. Honestly, it's hard to tell anymore under the patina of dust, sweat stains, and what you're pretty sure is blood from that time you got into a disagreement with a particularly ornery mule. The collar is frayed, the cuffs are more suggestion than reality, and there's a rip under the left arm that you keep meaning to get mended but never quite get around to. If you're a woman, your clothing situation is somehow even worse. You start with a camise, which is basically a loose undershirt that's supposed to protect your corset from your body's oils. Supposed to. In reality, it's doing about as good a job as a screen door on a submarine. Over that goes the corset, a torture device designed by someone who clearly hated rib cages. It's made of heavy cotton or canvas, reinforced with steel or whalebone stays, and it's designed to squeeze your internal organs into fashionable arrangements. Lacing up a corset by yourself in a cramped boarding house room is like trying to perform surgery while wearing oven mitts. You twist, you contort, you use language that would make a sailor blush. The stays dig into your ribs, your breathing becomes shallow, and you haven't even started your day yet. But fashion demands sacrifice. And in the 1870s, fashion demands that women have waists the circumference of a dinner plate. Over the corset goes a corset cover to protect your dress from the corset, then a bustle, a wire contraption designed to make your backside look like you're smuggling a Christmas ham, then petticoats, at least 2, preferably 3, and finally your dress. The dress is wool or heavy cotton, floor length, with long sleeves regardless of the weather. It weighs approximately as much as a modern camping tent and has similar insulation properties. In summer, you'll sweat like a pig. In winter, you'll freeze like one too. Both men and women top off their ensembles with appropriate headwear. For men, it's likely a wide-brimmed hat made of felt that's seen better decades. It's not just fashion. That hat is your umbrella, your sunshade, your water bucket in a pinch, and occasionally your weapon if things get spicy in the saloon. It's sweat-stained, dusty, and shaped specifically to your head through years of wear. Losing your hat is like losing a limb. For women, it's a bonnet that serves similar purposes, plus the added benefit of hiding the fact that your hair hasn't seen a proper wash since the last full moon. The bonnet is usually the cleanest thing you own because it's the easiest to wash and the most visible. Can't have people thinking you're completely uncivilized. Now for the best part, your boots. Oh, your boots. These leather monstrosities have walked through mud, manure, blood, whiskey, and substances that would make a modern hazmat team nervous. They're not waterproof. They're not particularly comfortable. The leather is cracked, the soles are wearing thin, and they smell like something died in them, which, given what you've walked through, might actually be true. If you're a cowboy, your boots have high heels, not for fashion, but to keep your foot from sliding through the stirrup and getting you dragged to death by your horse. They have pointed toes to make it easier to get your foot in the stirrup quickly. They cost about 2 months' wages, so you wear them until they literally fall apart, then you pay someone to stitch them back together and wear them some more. You pull on these boots over socks that are more whole than fabric, trying not to think about the squelching sound they make. That's not water. Well, it might be water, mixed with other things, many other things. Finally dressed, you look in that cracked mirror again. You look like an extra from a movie about the apocalypse. Your clothes are filthy, your face is already gathering a new layer of dust, and it's not even 6 a.m. yet. But here's the thing. Everyone looks like this. The banker, the sheriff, the preacher. They're all just wearing slightly nicer versions of the same filthy uniform. In the Wild West, being clean isn't just impossible, it's suspicious. Only gamblers and prostitutes have the time and money to maintain appearances. Honest folks look like they've been dragged behind a stagecoach, because metaphorically, they have been. Time for breakfast. Your stomach is growling like a rabid coyote, and you need fuel for another day of trying not to die. Let's see what culinary delights await you in the boarding house dining room. Spoiler alert, it's not good. It's never good. You make your way down to the boarding house's common room, which doubles as a dining room, social area, and occasionally, when things get frisky on Saturday nights, a makeshift fight arena. The smell of breakfast hits you before you even enter the room. Breakfast is a generous term. It's more like things that are technically edible, heated to a temperature that might kill some of the bacteria. The boarding house cook, a woman named Mabel, who looks like she's been personally wronged by the concept of flavor, has prepared the usual feast. And by feast, I mean the same thing she makes every single morning. Biscuits that could double as ammunition, gravy that's basically flour-thickened grease, and coffee that could strip paint off a barn door. Let's start with those biscuits. In your modern life, a biscuit is a fluffy, buttery delight. In the Wild West, a biscuit is a weapons-grade chunk of flour, lard, and disappointment. They're made with whatever flour was cheapest, usually full of weevils and other bonus protein, mixed with water and bacon grease, then baked until they achieve the consistency of limestone. You need to soak them in the gravy just to be able to bite through them without losing a tooth. And remember that dental situation we talked about? Yeah, these biscuits aren't helping. The gravy is its own special kind of horror. It starts with bacon grease, and not the good kind. This is the accumulated grease from a month's worth of bacon, stored in a can that hasn't been cleaned since the Johnson administration. Andrew Johnson, that is. Mabel throws some flour in the hot grease, stirs it around until it's the color of disappointment, then adds water or, if you're really lucky, some milk that's only slightly turned. Salt, pepper, seasoning of any kind? That's for rich folks and Easterners. You ladle this grayscale sludge over your rock-hard biscuits and try to convince yourself it's food. It tastes like wallpaper paste mixed with sadness. But it's hot, it's filling, and it's included in your 50-cent room rate, so down it goes. The coffee deserves its own moment of silence. Coffee in the Wild West isn't the carefully crafted artisanal experience you might be used to. It's not even the gas station coffee you complain about. This is coffee as punishment. The beans, when they're actually coffee beans and not chicory or roasted grain, are burnt beyond recognition. They're ground with a hand grinder that's never been cleaned, then boiled, yes, boiled, in a pot that's developed its own ecosystem. The result is a black, bitter, gritty liquid that's equal parts caffeine and regret. Sugar for your coffee? That's extra. Milk? Also extra. And probably sour. Most folks just drink it black and angry, like their souls after a few years on the frontier. You take a sip and immediately understand why everyone in old Western photos looks like they're sucking on a lemon. It's not the long exposure time, it's the coffee. If you're feeling particularly wealthy or self-destructive, you might order eggs. Mabel fries them in the same pan she's been using all morning, in the same grease, until they achieve the texture and appearance of leather. The yolks are hard enough to bounce, the whites are brown and crispy, and they taste like every other egg that's been cooked in that pan for the last week. Which is to say, they taste like failure. Bacon is on the menu too, if you can call it that. This isn't the crispy, perfectly marbled bacon of your dreams. This is salt pork that's been hanging in the smokehouse for God knows how long, sliced thick and fried until it's somewhere between jerky and shoe leather. It's 90% salt, 10% meat, and 100% likely to raise your blood pressure to dangerous levels. But it's protein, and when your other option is those weevil-infested biscuits, you'll take it. If you're really lucky, there might be some potatoes. These have been stored in the root cellar all winter, which means they're sprouting eyes like a Lovecraftian nightmare and have achieved a texture somewhere between cork and despair. Mabel fries them in, you guessed it, more bacon grease until they're black on the outside and somehow still raw in the middle. They taste like dirt, literally, because they're rarely washed properly. Fresh fruit? Fresh vegetables? Those are myths, like comfortable beds and clean water. Unless it's the height of summer and someone's garden is producing, you're not seeing anything green that isn't mold. Scurvy is a real concern, which is why so many frontier folks have that distinctive, I'm dying of vitamin deficiency look. You sit at the communal table with the other boarders, each of you chewing in sullen silence. There's Jake, the stable hand who smells exactly like you'd expect. There's Thomas, the clerk at the general store, who's saving up to bring his wife out from Ohio and looking more defeated by the day. There's mysterious Pete, who no one knows what he does but always pays his rent in gold coins. And there's you, trying to choke down enough calories to survive another day. The dining experience is enhanced by the ambiance. Flies buzz around the food, landing on your biscuits before you can shoo them away. The windows are open because the stove makes the room approximately the temperature of the surface of Mercury, which means dust is blowing in with every breeze. Someone at the end of the table is coughing wetly, tuberculosis probably, but everyone just pretends not to notice. The plates are tin, dented and scratched, washed in water that's been used for every dish this morning. Your fork has 3 tines, one of which is bent at a jaunty angle. You manage to finish your breakfast, washing it down with that paint-stripping coffee. Your stomach immediately begins lodging formal complaints, but you ignore it. You've got to get to work. And in the Wild West, work starts early and ends when you collapse. But first, you need to navigate the morning streets of Dodge City, which is like playing a real-life game of Oregon Trail, except instead of dying of dysentery on the trail, you might die of it right here in town. Time to venture out into the dusty, dangerous streets of the wildest cowtown in the West. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, friend, everything. Absolutely everything. You push open the boarding house door and step out onto Front Street, the main thoroughfare of Dodge City. It's 6:30 a.m. The sun is just starting to climb, and already the temperature is promising another scorcher. But the heat is the least of your problems. The streets of a Wild West town make a medieval city look like a model of urban planning and sanitation. First, let's talk about the street itself. Calling it a street is generous. It's more of a wide dirt path that turns into a mud wrestling arena every time it rains and a dust bowl the rest of the time. Right now, it's the dust bowl option. With every step, you kick up clouds of fine powder that immediately coats your clothes, your skin, and the inside of your lungs. This isn't just dirt. It's a complex mixture of soil, dried horse manure, cattle droppings, human spit, tobacco juice, mostly, and whatever else has been ground into powder by wagon wheels and boot heels. You're basically inhaling a fecal smoothie with every breath. The wooden sidewalks, or boardwalks as they're called, are elevated about a foot off the ground. This isn't for your convenience. It's so that when the streets do turn into mud soup, you can still navigate town without sinking up to your knees. The boards are warped, splintered, and have gaps big enough to catch your boot heel and send you face first into whatever fresh horror is waiting below. They're also not continuous. Each business owner is responsible for the boardwalk in front of their establishment, which means you're constantly stepping up and down different levels, like the world's worst stairmaster. The smell is indescribable. Actually, no, let me try to describe it. Imagine if someone took a barn, filled it with sick cattle, let them stew in their own waste for a month, then added notes of rotting garbage, stale beer, vomit, and human desperation. Now multiply that by 1,000. That's Tuesday morning in Dodge City. The cattle pens on the edge of town hold thousands of longhorns waiting to be shipped east, and the wind carries their aromatic gifts directly down Main Street. Add to that the horses, so many horses, each contributing their own special presence to the street surface. And it's not just animal waste. Dodge City in 1875 has no sewage system, no garbage collection. Everything just gets thrown into the street. Kitchen slops, human waste from chamber pots, dead animals, it all goes out the door or window. There are pigs wandering freely, acting as the municipal cleanup crew, eating garbage and contributing their own waste to the mix. It's the circle of life, if the circle of life smelled like Satan's armpit. You navigate down the boardwalk, dodging other early risers. There's a cowboy who clearly didn't make it back to his lodgings last night, sleeping it off right there on the boards. His friends probably left him there as a joke. Or maybe those aren't his friends. Hard to tell. You step over him carefully. In the Wild West, you don't wake up drunks unless you want to risk getting shot, stabbed, or vomited on. Sometimes all three. The businesses are just opening up. The general store owner is out front, sweeping dust from one place to another in a Sisyphean task that he performs every morning. The blacksmith's forge is already going, adding smoke and the ring of hammer on anvil to the morning symphony. The saloons, and there are many saloons, this is Dodge City after all, are technically closed, but you can see figures moving inside, either cleaning up from last night or getting an early start on today's drinking. Speaking of saloons, let's count them. In 1875, Dodge City has a population of about 1,200 people and approximately 16 saloons. That's one saloon for every 75 people, including women and children. The Long Branch, the Alamo, the Old House, the Oasis, each one a temple to whiskey, cards, and bad decisions. The respectable businesses, the bank, the mercantile, the hotel, are vastly outnumbered by establishments dedicated to separating cowboys from their money. You pass by the barber shop, where the barber is also the dentist and sometimes the surgeon. His qualifications? He owns sharp instruments and a steady hand. Mostly steady, depending on how much he drank last night. You unconsciously run your tongue over that aching molar and shudder. The ladies are out too, the respectable ones doing their morning shopping, giving wide berth to the saloon girls who are just heading home after a long night's work. The social stratification is visible and brutal. A respectable woman wouldn't acknowledge a prostitute's existence, even though everyone knows that half the married men in town are their regular customers. Hypocrisy is as much a part of the Wild West as dust and dysentery. You dodge a freight wagon rumbling down the street, loaded with supplies for the general store. The driver doesn't slow down for pedestrians. In the Wild West, right of way goes to whoever's biggest, and a fully loaded wagon wins every time. You jump back onto the boardwalk just in time, earning a face full of dust for your troubles. There's constant noise. Horses neighing, cattle lowing, dogs barking, hammers hammering, people shouting. Someone's playing a badly tuned piano in one of the saloons. At 7 a.m., mind you. Somewhere a baby's crying. Men are arguing over the price of something. A woman is beating a rug, adding more dust to the air. It's sensory overload, and it never stops. You finally make it to your destination, the livery stable where you work. Oh yes, you're a stable hand. Glamorous, I know, but it's steady work. And in a town where the primary industries are cattle, whiskey, and violence, steady work is nothing to sneeze at. Although you will be sneezing. A lot. Hay fever is about to become your constant companion. As you approach the stable, the smell somehow gets worse. If you thought the street was bad, the concentrated aroma of dozens of horses in an enclosed space is like getting punched in the nose by an angry skunk. But this is your workplace. Your domain. Time to start another day of shoveling horse manure and trying not to get kicked in the head. Welcome to your career in the Wild West. It's not exactly what the dime novels promised, is it? The livery stable looms before you like a cathedral of manure. It's a massive wooden structure built to house about 50 horses, though right now it's packed with closer to 70. Cowboys fresh off the trail need somewhere to stable their mounts while they spend their wages on whiskey and women, and business is booming. For you, this means job security. It also means you're about to spend the next 12 hours in what can only be described as equine hell. Your boss, a German immigrant named Otto who speaks English like he's chewing rocks, is already there. Otto is built like a beer barrel, smells like a horse, and has a temperament that makes a rattlesnake look cuddly. He greets you with his customary warm welcome. You late. Horses shit all night. You clean. Schnell. You're not actually late. Otto just believes that any moment not spent working is a moment stolen from him personally. He's been here since 4 a.m., probably because he lives in the loft above the stable and the smell no longer bothers him. His ability to ignore the stench is either admirable or a sign that his olfactory nerves committed suicide years ago. Your first task of the day? Mucking out the stalls. If you've never mucked a stall, let me paint you a picture. Horses are magnificent creatures, majestic, powerful, and capable of producing approximately their own body weight in manure every single day. Well, that's an exaggeration, but not by much. The average horse produces about 50 pounds of manure daily. Multiply that by 70 horses, and you're looking at, 3,500 pounds of horse shit every single day. You grab your tools, a pitchfork that's seen better decades, and a wheelbarrow with a wheel that squeaks like a tortured soul. The pitchfork has 3 tines, one of which is bent at an angle that makes it essentially useless. The wheelbarrow lists to the left and has a capacity slightly smaller than what a single horse can produce in a morning. But these are your tools, and complaining to Otto would only result in a stream of German profanity and possibly unemployment. You start with the first stall. The horse, a particularly vindictive mare named Satan's Daughter, not her real name, but that's what everyone calls her, eyes you with the kind of malevolence usually reserved for tax collectors. She's figured out that if she stands in exactly the right spot, you have to squeeze past her to clean, and she can then pin you against the wall with her substantial equine posterior. It's a game to her. To you, it's Tuesday. You begin forking the soiled straw into your wheelbarrow. The smell is indescribable. It's not just horse manure, though there's plenty of that. It's also horse urine, which has soaked into the straw and fermented into an ammonia cloud that makes your eyes water. The flies are having a convention, buzzing around your head like they're discussing union organization. You swat at them futilely, knowing that for every one you discourage, 10 more are waiting to take its place. The straw is heavy when it's wet, and it's always wet. Your back starts protesting after the 3rd forkful, but you've got 69 more stalls to go. You develop a rhythm. Fork, lift, dump, try not to breathe. Fork, lift, dump, dodge the horse's teeth because Satan's Daughter thinks your ear looks tasty. Fork, lift, dump, wonder why you didn't stay back east and take that job at your uncle's dry goods store. When the wheelbarrow is full, which happens depressingly quickly, you have to navigate it out to the manure pile behind the stable. This involves maneuvering through a narrow aisle filled with horses who seem to take personal pleasure in blocking your path. The squeaky wheel announces your presence like a medieval herald, and every horse turns to look at you with what you swear is amusement. The manure pile is a geographic feature unto itself. It's been growing all summer, a steaming mountain of decomposing horse waste that generates its own weather system. The smell is visible, rising in waves like a mirage. You dump your load, adding to the monument to equine digestion, and head back for more. Only 137 more trips to go. But mucking stalls is just the beginning. You also have to feed the horses, which involves hauling 50-pound bags of grain from the storage room. The grain is dusty, full of mouse droppings, and occasionally you'll find a dead mouse right in the bag. Extra protein, Otto says. The horses don't seem to mind. Watering is another adventure. There's no running water in the stable. That's a luxury for fancy Eastern establishments. You have to haul water from the well out back, bucket by bucket. Each horse needs about 10 gallons of water a day. That's 700 gallons of water you need to haul. The well is 100 feet from the stable. Your arms feel like they're going to fall off after the first hour, but you keep going because The alternative is dehydrated horses, and dehydrated horses tend to die, and dead horses mean Otto screaming in German and you looking for a new job. Then there's the grooming. Cowboys pay extra to have their horses brushed and looking pretty. This would be fine if horses understood the concept of standing still. They don't. They step on your feet. With iron-shod hooves that feel like hammers made of hate. They lean on you. 500 pounds of horse leaning on you is like being slowly crushed by a very hairy wall. And they have a delightful habit of waiting until you're bent over cleaning their hooves to release gas directly into your face. Horse farts. Let's talk about horse farts. They're not like human farts or even dog farts. They're in a category all their own. They're loud enough to startle other horses, long enough to feel like they're never going to end, and smell like something crawled inside the horse, died, came back as a zombie, and died again. When a horse lets one rip while you're cleaning its back hooves, it's a direct assault on your senses and your will to live. Around midday, Otto allows you a 15-minute break for lunch. You've brought some bread and cheese from the boarding house, though after handling horse manure all morning, your appetite isn't what it used to be. You eat standing up, because sitting down would mean having to get back up, and your back has already filed a formal protest with management. The afternoon brings new challenges. Cowboys start arriving to collect their horses, and each one has specific demands. Their saddle needs to be cleaned, with oil that costs extra, of course. Their horse needs to be ready in 5 minutes. Impossible, but you smile and nod. They complain that their horse looks thin. It doesn't, or fat. It might, or sick. It's not. It's just tired of their bullshit. Some cowboys are decent folks who tip a nickel for good service. Others are mean drunks who threaten violence if their horse isn't exactly as they left it. One cowboy accuses you of stealing his lucky horseshoe, which he definitely didn't have in the first place. Another wants to fight Otto because he thinks the boarding fee is too high. Otto, who could probably bench press a horse if motivated, just grunts and points to the sign that says payment in advance, no refunds, no exceptions. Stop asking. By 6 p.m., you've been working for 12 hours straight. Your clothes are soaked with sweat and things you don't want to identify. You smell like you've been marinating in a horse's digestive system. Your hands have blisters on top of blisters. Your back feels like someone's been using it for anvil practice. But you've earned your $1 for the day, minus the nickel. Otto docks you for being late. As you trudge back to the boarding house, you pass cowboys heading to the saloons, fresh and cleaned up, relatively speaking, for a night on the town. They're laughing, jingling coins in their pockets, looking forward to whiskey and cards, and maybe a dance with a percentage girl. You're looking forward to collapsing on your straw mattress and trying not to dream about horses. But first, you need to eat something. Your stomach, despite the day's aromatic adventures, is demanding sustenance. Let's see what culinary nightmares await you for dinner in Dodge City. Spoiler, it's not much better than breakfast, but at least it's not actively trying to kill you. Probably. You drag yourself into the boarding house dining room, where Mabel has prepared another feast of questionable edibles. Tonight's menu, beef stew, or as it's known locally, whatever was about to go bad mixed with whatever vegetables we could find, swimming in a gravy that's mostly flour and hope. The beef in question is tough enough to sole a boot. This isn't prime cut. It's whatever the butcher couldn't sell after a week of trying. It's been boiled for hours in an attempt to make it chewable, resulting in gray chunks of meat that have the texture of rubber and the flavor of resignation. You need to saw at it with your knife, and even then, you're mostly just separating it into smaller, equally inedible pieces. The vegetables are a scavenger hunt of sadness. There's potatoes sprouting, carrots, woody. onions, mostly rotten, and something that might be turnips, but could also be chunks of wood that fell into the pot. Everything has been cooked until it's achieved a uniform consistency of mush. Nutrients? Vitamins? Those are concepts that haven't been invented yet. This is fuel, plain and simple, designed to keep you upright for another day. The other boarders are at various stages of exhaustion. Jake the stable hand, your colleague in equine excrement, is face down in his stew, possibly asleep, possibly dead. Someone should probably check. Thomas the store clerk is reading a letter from his wife, looking increasingly despondent with each line. Mysterious Pete is eating with mechanical precision, saying nothing, which is his way. There's a new addition to the table tonight. A traveling salesman named Frederick who's trying to drum up conversation about his revolutionary new product, Dr. Hamlin's Wizard Oil, guaranteed to cure everything from rheumatism to romantic disappointment. He's giving everyone the hard sell, claiming it contains the finest ingredients known to medical science. You happen to know it's mostly alcohol, turpentine, and camphor, because you can smell it from across the table. In the Wild West, medicine is often more dangerous than the diseases it claims to cure. After choking down enough stew to quiet your stomach, you head out to the town's main attraction, the saloons. Not because you're a big drinker, but because that's where everyone goes. It's the social media of the 1870s. If you want to know what's happening, who's in town, or just escape the crushing reality of frontier life for a few hours, you go to the saloon. Front Street at night is a different animal than during the day. The respectable businesses are closed, their windows dark, but the saloons are blazing with light, music, and trouble. You can hear them from blocks away: piano music, laughter, shouting, and the occasional crash of furniture being rearranged with someone's face. You choose the Long Branch, mostly because it's slightly less likely to erupt in gunfire than some of the others. The Batwing doors swing open to reveal a scene from Dante's Inferno, if Dante had a thing for whiskey and marked cards. The air is thick with smoke, tobacco, mostly, but also oil lamps and the occasional cigar that smells like burning rope. The noise is deafening. Dozens of conversations, a piano being murdered by someone who thinks they can play, glasses clinking, chairs scraping, and somewhere in the back, what sounds like either a fist fight or an aggressive hug. The bar runs along one wall, a massive affair of polished wood that's the nicest thing in the entire town. Behind it, a mirror that's worth more than most buildings, reflecting rows of bottles filled with liquids of dubious origin. The bartender, a man mountain named Big Mike, serves drinks with the enthusiasm of someone who's seen too much and cares too little. You order a beer, which costs a nickel and tastes like someone filtered swamp water through a sock. It's warm, flat, and has things floating in it that you choose not to examine too closely. But it's wet, it's got alcohol in it, and after the day you've had, that's enough. The saloon is packed with the usual suspects: cowboys fresh off the trail, their pockets full of 3 months' wages, and their judgment impaired by 3 months without whiskey. Gamblers in fancy vests working their trade at the faro tables. Percentage girls, that's what they call the women who work the saloons, dancing with cowboys for a cut of the drink sales, circulating in dresses that show scandalous amounts of ankle. In one corner, a poker game is getting heated. You can tell because one player has his hand hovering near his gun. In the Wild West, poker isn't just a card game. It's a potentially fatal social interaction. Accuse someone of cheating, and you'd better be ready to back it up with lead. The tension in that corner is thick enough to cut with a knife, which someone might actually do before the night is over. At another table, a group of buffalo hunters are regaling anyone who will listen with tales of their exploits. Buffalo hunters are a special breed of crazy, men who spend months on the plains killing buffalo for their hides and leaving the carcasses to rot. They smell like death warmed over and have the social skills of the animals they hunt. Even in a town full of rough characters, buffalo hunters are avoided. You nurse your beer and try to blend into the scenery. In a saloon, being noticed can be dangerous. Make eye contact with the wrong person, and you might find yourself in a discussion that ends with gunplay. Bump into someone and spilled whiskey could lead to spilled blood. The Wild West has a very direct approach to conflict resolution. The piano player suddenly stops mid-song. The saloon goes quiet. Everyone turns to look at the doors, where a man in a black coat has just entered. You don't recognize him, but from the way everyone's acting, he's either very important or very dangerous. Possibly both. He walks to the bar, spurs jingling with each step, and orders whiskey. Conversations slowly resume, but quieter now. Everyone's watching him without appearing to watch. This is the reality of the Wild West that Hollywood doesn't show you. It's not constant gunfights and heroic showdowns. It's tension. It's the knowledge that violence could erupt at any moment over the smallest slight. It's drinking warm beer while trying not to make eye contact with the wrong person. It's being constantly aware of where the exits are. You finish your beer and head for the door. Tomorrow's another 5 a.m. start, another day of horse manure and backbreaking labor. As you push through the bat-wing doors, you hear raised voices behind you. The poker game. Probably. You walk faster. In the Wild West, curiosity doesn't kill the cat. It kills the stable hand who should have minded his own business. The walk back to the boarding house is an adventure in itself. The streetlights are few and far between, just oil lamps that create pools of yellow light separated by vast oceans of darkness. In those dark spaces, anything could be waiting. Drunks looking for a fight, thieves looking for an easy mark, or just holes in the boardwalk looking to break your ankle. You make it back without incident, though you have to step over 2 unconscious cowboys and what might be a dead dog. Hard to tell in the dark. The boarding house is quiet except for the symphony of snores from your fellow residents. You climb the stairs, each one creaking loud enough to wake the dead, though thankfully not the living. Back in your room, your 2 roommates are already asleep. One is talking in his sleep, apparently having an argument with someone named Bessie about a stolen chicken. The other is producing smells that suggest his dinner isn't agreeing with him. You collapse onto your straw mattress, still fully clothed because undressing requires energy you don't have. As you lie there, staring at the ceiling and trying to ignore the feeling that something is definitely crawling on you, you reflect on your day. You've shoveled literal tons of horse shit. You've eaten food that would make a prison riot. You've narrowly avoided at least 3 potentially violent situations. And tomorrow, you get to do it all over again. Welcome to the American dream, frontier style, where the streets are paved with manure, the food is actively hostile, and death lurks around every corner like a particularly patient creditor. But hey, at least you're free. Free to die of dysentery, free to get shot over a poker game, free to work yourself into an early grave. It's the Wild West, partner, and you're living the dream. The horrible, terrible, no-good dream. 3 weeks into your glamorous career as a stable hand, that nagging pain in your molar has graduated from annoying to contemplating death as a viable alternative. In your modern life, this would mean a trip to the dentist, some Novocaine, and maybe a crown. In the Wild West, it means a trip to the barber, some whiskey, and maybe surviving the experience. The barber surgeon, and yes, that's a real job title that should terrify you, is a named Doc Holliday. Not the famous one. This Doc Holliday couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a shotgun, but he can extract a tooth faster than you can scream, "Dear God, why?" His qualifications? He owns pliers, and his hands shake less than the previous barber, who drank himself to death last winter. His shop is a testament to the horrors of frontier medicine. The chair is a regular barber chair with suspicious leather straps for the nervous types. The instruments are displayed in a glass case that hasn't been cleaned since the Lincoln administration. You can see the pliers, several sizes, all rusty. There's also some truly terrifying devices that look like they were designed by someone who really, really hated teeth. $1 for extraction, Doc says, eyeing your swollen jaw with professional interest. $2 if you want the laudanum first. Laudanum. That's tincture of opium, the Wild West's answer to everything from teething babies to existential dread. It's basically opium dissolved in alcohol, and it's as addictive as it sounds. Half the respectable women in town are laudanum addicts, sipping their medicine for female troubles or nervous conditions, or Tuesday. You fork over the $2, a day's wages for maybe not feeling like you're being murdered. Doc pours a generous dose into a dirty glass. It tastes like bitter death, with hints of alcohol and broken dreams. Within minutes, the world gets soft around the edges. The pain is still there, but it's distant now, like it's happening to someone else's tooth. Doc doesn't waste time. He tilts your head back, peers into your mouth with the kind of expression you'd use to examine a particularly interesting insect, and reaches for the pliers. There's no examination, no x-rays, no careful diagnosis. In the Wild West, dentistry has one solution to tooth pain. Yank it out and hope for the best. The pliers go in. Even through the laudanum haze, you can feel the cold metal against your gums. Doc gets a grip on the tooth and starts pulling. There's a sound, a wet, crunching, tearing sound that you feel in your bones. The tooth doesn't want to come out. It's been part of you for decades, and it's not giving up without a fight. Doc braces his foot against the chair and really leans into it. You can smell his breakfast, beans, obviously, and his morning whiskey. The chair creaks. Your jaw feels like it's being separated from your skull. There's a moment of resistance, then a horrifying pop as the tooth finally gives way. Doc holds it up triumphantly, a bloody piece of you dangling from his pliers. "Got her," he announces, like he's just landed a prize fish. Blood is pouring from the hole in your mouth. Doc stuffs some cotton in there, cotton that's been used before, judging by the color, and pronounces you cured. "Rinse with whiskey 3 times a day," he prescribes. "If it gets infected, come back and we'll take the next one." The casual way he says this makes your remaining teeth hurt in sympathy. Infection is pretty much guaranteed. This is an era before antibiotics, before sterile technique, before anyone thought maybe reusing bloody cotton wasn't the best idea. Your immune system is about to face the fight of its life. You stumble out of the barber shop, mouth full of recycled cotton and regret. The laudanum is wearing off, and the pain is coming back with reinforcements. Your jaw feels like someone hit it with a hammer, which is basically what just happened. But hey, at least the tooth is gone. Now you just have to survive the aftermath. Let's talk about medicine in the Wild West, or as it should be called, ways to die while trying not to die. If you get sick or injured on the frontier, your options range from bad to worse to maybe the wolves will make it quick. Doctors, when you can find them, have medical degrees that might as well be written in crayon. Medical school in the 1870s is often just a few months of lectures, no practical experience required. Many frontier doctors are actually failed doctors from back east, men who headed west because their patients back home had an annoying habit of dying. Their medical knowledge is a mix of outdated theories, folklore, and outright quackery. They still believe in the 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. If you're sick, it's because these are out of balance. The solution? Bloodletting. Yes, when you're already sick and weak, the doctor's solution is to drain some of your blood. It's like treating dehydration by putting you in the desert. The medicines are even worse. Calomel, a mercury compound, is prescribed for everything from constipation to syphilis. It causes your teeth to fall out and your jawbone to rot, but at least you're not constipated anymore. Strychnine, actual rat poison, is used as a stimulant. Cocaine is in everything from toothache drops to children's cough syrup. Heroin is marketed as a non-addictive alternative to morphine, which is hilarious in the darkest possible way. Patent medicines are everywhere, sold by traveling salesmen and newspaper ads. Dr. Pierce's golden medical discovery, Dr. Hap Kilmer's swamp root, Lydia Pinkham's vegetable compound, they all promise to cure everything from cancer to cowardice. They're mostly alcohol, sometimes with added opiates or cocaine for that extra kick. People swear by them, mainly because being drunk and high makes you forget you're sick. If you break a bone, the doctor will set it, maybe correctly, maybe not, and tell you to stay off it. There's no cast, just maybe some splints made from whatever wood is handy. If the bone heals crooked, well, that's just your new shape now. Congratulations on your permanent limp. Surgery is a horror show. There's no anesthesia except whiskey and maybe some laudanum if you're lucky. The doctor's instruments haven't been sterilized because germ theory isn't widely accepted yet. You might rinse them off between patients, but probably not. The operating table is often just the kitchen table, cleared of dishes and wiped down with the same rag used for everything else. If you need an amputation, an infection means you might, you better hope the doctor is quick. The faster he can saw through your limb, the less likely you are to die from shock. There's a doctor in Kansas who brags he can take off a leg in under 3 minutes. Of course, in his hurry, he once also took off his assistant's fingers and a spectator's coattails. But speed is everything when your patient is screaming and trying to escape. Childbirth is Russian roulette with worse odds. 1 in 8 women die in childbirth or from complications shortly after. Doctors, when they attend births at all, often do more harm than good. They go from patient to patient without washing their hands, spreading puerperal fever like party favors. Midwives, usually older women with experience but no formal training, are often safer, but if something goes wrong, there's not much they can do except pray. Children die at horrifying rates. Whooping cough, measles, scarlet fever, diphtheria, they sweep through towns like tiny grim reapers. A family with 6 children might see 2 reach adulthood if they're lucky. The cemetery has a whole section for children, tiny graves with carved lambs or angels, dates heartbreakingly close together. And then there's the stuff that kills you that isn't even illness. Accidents are everywhere. Get kicked by a horse, internal bleeding, probably fatal. Fall off a roof, hope you land on something soft because there's no trauma surgery. Cut yourself badly, without antibiotics, that infection is going to race through your system like wildfire. Even a splinter can kill you if it goes septic. The heat in summer brings its own special hells. Heat stroke is common and often fatal. There's no air conditioning, no electric fans, just whatever breeze you can catch. People drop dead in the fields, in the mines, on the street. Dehydration is a constant threat when clean water is scarce and everyone's drinking alcohol instead. Winter is worse. Frostbite takes fingers, toes, noses. Hypothermia claims anyone caught in a blizzard. Pneumonia stalks through towns like an invisible predator. That cough that starts in November might kill you by January. The treatment? Mustard plasters on your chest, which do nothing except make you smell like a hot dog. Your tooth extraction, by the way, is definitely infected. Your jaw is swelling, the pain is spreading, and you're starting to run a fever. In your time, this would mean antibiotics and maybe some stern words from your dentist about flossing. Here, it means you might die from a dental procedure. The infection could spread to your brain, fatal, your heart, fatal, or just generally through your bloodstream, extremely fatal. Doc Holliday's solution? Pull more teeth. His reasoning is that if one tooth was bad, the ones next to it probably are too. It's the dental equivalent of burning down the house to kill a spider. But what choice do you have? It's either that or wait for the infection to kill you, which it absolutely will. So back you go, fork over another $2 you can't afford, and let Doc yank out 2 more teeth. The hole in your mouth is now big enough to store a rolled-up dollar bill, which you might need to do since you're spending all your money on dental work. The new extractions are definitely going to get infected too, but maybe you'll get lucky and they'll all get infected at the same rate, achieving some kind of bacterial balance. This is medicine in the Wild West, brutal, primitive, and more likely to kill you than cure you. Every injury is potentially fatal. Every illness is a roll of the dice. Every treatment is based on theories that are at best useless and at worst actively harmful. The real miracle isn't that people died young in the Wild West. The miracle is that anyone survived at all. 6 weeks into your Wild West adventure, you've learned the most important survival skill: how to avoid getting shot. This isn't as simple as don't start fights, because in the Wild West, fights start themselves. A wrong look, a careless word, an accidental jostle in a saloon, any of these can lead to a conversation conducted in .45 caliber. Let's talk about the gun situation. Everyone is armed. Everyone. The cowboys have their Colt Peacemakers, worn low on the hip for that quick draw they practice when they think no one's looking. The gamblers have Derringers hidden in their vest pockets, tiny guns that are only accurate at already stabbing you range. The shopkeepers have shotguns under their counters. Even the respectable ladies have small pistols in their purses, because you never know when you'll need to defend your honor with extreme prejudice. Dodge City has a law about checking your guns when you come into town. It's adorable that they think this works. Sure, some cowboys dutifully hand over their visible guns to the sheriff. They definitely don't have a backup gun in their boot, another in their coat, and a knife that's basically a small sword. The law is more of a suggestion, and like most suggestions in the Wild West, it's widely ignored. The social rules around violence are complex and unwritten, which makes them extra fun to navigate. Calling someone a liar is fighting words, so is cheating at cards, or accusing someone of cheating when they're not. Insulting someone's horse is serious business. Insulting someone's mother is a death wish. Looking at someone's woman for too long? That's a shooting. Not looking at someone when they're talking to you? Also, potentially a shooting. The code of honor is bizarre and arbitrary. A man who would shoot you for implying his poker hand is less than honest will also loan you money if you're broke. Someone who'd kill you for stepping on his boots will also risk his life to pull you out of a burning building. It's a society built on respect, and respect is earned through a combination of competence, toughness, and knowing when to shut up. You've learned to navigate saloons like a man walking through a minefield. Always sit with your back to the wall. Never reach into your coat too quickly. People assume you're going for a gun. If someone bumps into you, apologize even if it's their fault. If someone insults you, laugh it off unless they really push it, in which case you have to push back or be branded a coward, which is almost worse than being dead. The famous gunfighters you've heard about? Most of them are just regular guys with good PR. Wild Bill Hickok is in town occasionally, and he's exactly as dangerous as advertised, but he's also a degenerate gambler who'd rather play cards than shoot anyone. Wyatt Earp and his brothers are around, and they're tough, but they're also businessmen who'll understand that corpses are bad for commerce. The real dangers are the unknown quantities. The drunk cowboy who just lost 3 months' wages at Faro. The kid trying to make a reputation. The man who's been nursing a grudge since someone looked at him wrong in Abilene. These are the people who'll kill you over nothing and feel justified doing it. Bar fights are a nightly occurrence, and they have their own ecosystem. There's the opening phase, where voices get raised and chairs get pushed back. Smart people leave during this phase. Then comes the posturing, where the participants question each other's parentage and masculinity. Sometimes it ends here if friends intervene or the bartender threatens them with a shotgun. But sometimes it escalates to actual violence, and that's when things get interesting. Fists fly, bottles break, chairs become weapons. The piano player keeps playing unless directly threatened because the show must go on. Everyone else either joins in or circles up to watch, making bets on the outcome. The unwritten rules of bar fighting are important. No guns unless someone draws first. No knives unless things get really serious. Try not to break anything too expensive. If you knock someone out, you buy them a drink when they wake up. If someone yields, you let them yield. Killing someone in a fair fight is legally acceptable. Killing someone who's given up is murder. You've been in exactly one fight so far, and it was educational. A drunk cowboy took exception to your face, or maybe your breathing, it wasn't clear. He swung, you ducked, he hit the person behind you, and suddenly you were in a 6-person brawl that had nothing to do with the original dispute. You got a black eye, a split lip, and bought a round of drinks afterward like a gentleman. The cowboy who started it all bought you a drink specifically, which apparently meant you were square. The law, such as it is, takes a practical approach to violence. The sheriff and his deputies, usually about 4 men to police a town of over 1,000 drunks, criminals, and cowboys, can't be everywhere. They focus on the big stuff: murders, major thefts, and anything that threatens the town's business interests. A regular bar fight? That's just Tuesday night. When someone does get shot, there's a brief investigation that usually goes like this. Who shot him? That fellow over there. Why? He called him a cheat at cards. Was he cheating? Probably. Fair enough. Someone clean this up. Self-defense is broadly interpreted. If you can convince a jury of your peers, other men who understand the unwritten rules, that the deceased had it coming, you'll probably walk free. The key is to make sure your story is better than the dead man's, which is easy because dead men tell no tales. Women navigate a different but equally dangerous social landscape. A respectable woman has protection through her status, but step outside those bounds and things get complicated fast. The sporting girls, prostitutes, are simultaneously essential to the town's economy and treated as less than human. They can be assaulted, robbed, or murdered with little consequence unless they're under the protection of a powerful madam or pimp. Even respectable women face constant danger. Walking alone after dark is an invitation to assault. Refusing a man's advances requires delicate diplomacy. Too harsh, and you might provoke violence. Too gentle, and they won't get the message. Many women carry guns and know how to use them, because when push comes to shove, a .32 caliber argument is very persuasive. The class system is rigid but weird. A successful gambler has more social standing than an honest laborer. A prostitute who owns her own house is more respected than a respectable woman who takes in washing. Money talks, but so does toughness. A poor man who's good with a gun gets more respect than a rich man who's soft. Your position as a stable hand puts you pretty low on the social ladder, but it also keeps you mostly out of trouble. You're not important enough to rob, not threatening enough to challenge, not interesting enough to bother. It's a kind of protective invisibility. You keep your head down, do your job, and try not to look anyone important in the eye. But even being nobody isn't complete protection. You've seen men killed for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. A stray bullet from a gunfight, a case of mistaken identity, a random act of violence from someone who woke up feeling mean. Death in the Wild West doesn't always come looking for you specifically, but it's always around, like a stray dog that might bite if you move too sudden. The secret to survival, you've learned, is to be polite, be cautious, and always assume everyone is armed and having a bad day. Keep your opinions to yourself, your money hidden, and your gun. You bought a used Colt for protection, loaded but holstered. Don't gamble with money you can't lose. Don't drink more than you can handle. And don't ever imply that someone's mother was anything less than a saint. It's exhausting, this constant vigilance. In your modern life, the worst consequence of a social faux pas is awkwardness. Here, it's lead poisoning of the acute ballistic variety. Every conversation could be your last. Every saloon visit is a dance with death. Every day you survive is a small victory against the odds. Welcome to the social scene of the Wild West, where the drinks are warm, the tempers are hot, and the life expectancy is measured in luck rather than years. 2 months into your frontier adventure, you've discovered that while humans might shoot you, nature is playing the long game of trying to kill you slowly and creatively. The American frontier has weather that seems personally offended by human existence, wildlife that views you as either a threat or a snack, and a landscape that's actively hostile to survival. Let's start with summer, which in Kansas is less a season and more a biblical punishment. The temperature regularly hits 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's not just hot. It's the kind of hot that makes you understand why people go crazy and shoot each other over card games. The sun doesn't just shine, it hammers down like God's own blacksmith, turning the whole world into an anvil with you as the unfortunate piece of metal being shaped. There's no air conditioning, there's no electric fans. Hell, there's barely shade. The few trees around Dodge City look like they're trying to crawl back into the ground to escape the heat. Your wool pants, because that's all they make, become an instrument of torture. Your shirt is soaked through with sweat by 7 a.m. and stays that way until October. The leather of your boots actually cooks your feet. You can feel your brain trying to boil inside your skull. The boarding house becomes uninhabitable during the day. The tin roof turns it into an oven. People sleep outside when they can, which brings its own problems. More on that later. You drink water constantly when you can find clean water, which is rarely. Most folks drink beer all day because it's safer than water and helps you forget that you're slowly being roasted alive. Heat stroke is common and often fatal. You'll see someone working, then they stop sweating. Bad sign. Then they get confused, then they fall over, and then they die unless someone can cool them down fast. The treatment is to strip them and pour water over them, which uses up precious water that everyone needs for drinking. It's a horrible calculation. Save one person now or keep that water for everyone else later. But the heat is just the opening act. The real show is the storms. Kansas thunderstorms don't mess around. They roll in from the west like an invading army, turning the sky green-black. The temperature drops 20 degrees in minutes. The wind picks up, and when I say wind, I mean the kind that can pick up a cow and relocate it to the next county. Lightning strikes constantly. The prairie is flat, and you're often the tallest thing around, which makes you nature's lightning rod. You've seen men struck dead while working in the fields, their bodies smoking like overcooked bacon. The thunder is so loud it makes your chest hurt. The rain comes down not in drops but in sheets, like someone's pouring the ocean through a sieve. And then there's the hail. Kansas hail doesn't play. We're talking ice chunks the size of baseballs falling from the sky at terminal velocity. They kill cattle, punch holes through roofs, and turn anyone caught outside into a medical emergency. You've seen men knocked unconscious, their heads split open like melons. The smart ones carry thick blankets to hide under when they see a storm coming, but sometimes there's no warning. But wait, it gets better. This is Tornado Alley, and tornadoes here are like drunk giants stumbling across the landscape, destroying everything they touch. There's no warning system, no sirens. You just look at the sky, see that distinctive funnel shape, and run for the nearest cellar while praying to whatever god you think might be listening. The cellar, if you're lucky enough to find one, is a dark hole in the ground full of spiders, snakes, and the collective terror of everyone crammed inside. You sit there in the dark, listening to the freight train sound of the tornado, feeling the ground shake, wondering if this is how you die. Not in a gunfight, not from disease, but from being sucked into the sky and scattered across 3 counties. Winter is nature's other attempt to murder you. The temperature drops to negative stupid. The wind comes straight down from the Arctic with nothing to slow it down but your face. Snow doesn't fall, it attacks horizontally. Ice forms on your beard, in your nostrils, on your eyelashes. Your fingers go numb, then painful, then numb again, which is when you need to worry about frostbite. The boarding house has 1 stove for heat, and it's nowhere near your room. You sleep fully clothed under every blanket you own, and still wake up with frost on the inside walls. Water freezes in your wash basin. The outhouse becomes a torture chamber where exposed skin can literally freeze to the wooden seat. Men have lost important parts of their anatomy to winter outhouse visits. Blizzards can last for days. The snow piles up higher than a horse. People get lost between their house and their barn, found frozen to death 50 feet from safety. Cattle freeze standing up, becoming horrible ice sculptures. The town can be cut off for weeks, no supplies coming in, everyone slowly starving and freezing together. But the weather is just trying to kill you passively. The wildlife takes a more active approach. Let's start with the wolves. They're not the noble, misunderstood creatures of modern wildlife documentaries. These are desperate predators who view you as a slow-moving meal option. They follow the cattle herds, picking off the weak, but they're not above expanding their diet to include humans when the opportunity arises. At night, you can hear them howling, and it's not a distant, romantic sound. It's close, circling, testing. Travelers found dead on the prairie often show signs of wolf predation, though whether the wolves killed them or just found them dead is a question nobody wants to answer. If you're caught outside at night, you better have a fire and a gun, and even then, you're just making yourself a harder target, not a safe one. Then there's the rattlesnakes. They're everywhere, hiding in the grass, under boards, in the outhouse. Always check before you sit. Their rattle is supposed to be a warning, but sometimes they don't bother warning. You'll be walking along and suddenly there's a fire in your leg, and you look down to see a snake attached to your boot. If you're lucky, it got mostly leather. If you're not, you've got about an hour to get very drunk and hope for the best. The treatment for snake bite is whiskey. Lots of whiskey. The theory is that if you're drunk enough, the venom can't kill you. This is completely wrong, but it does mean you die happy. Some people try cutting the bite and sucking out the venom, which just means you get poison in 2 places instead of 1. The real treatment is to not get bitten, which is easier said than done when the snakes blend in perfectly with the ground and have a bad attitude. Scorpions are another fun surprise. They hide in your boots, your bedding, your clothes. That moment of putting on your boot in the morning becomes a game of Russian roulette. Will today be the day you get a stinger through your sock? The sting won't kill you, usually, but it'll make you wish it had. Your foot swells up like a balloon. The pain is extraordinary, and there's nothing to do but suffer through it. The buffalo are mostly gone by 1875, hunted nearly to extinction, but the few remaining herds are worth avoiding. A buffalo looks slow and stupid until it's charging at you at 35 miles per hour. They weigh a ton, literally, and they're not afraid of humans, horses, or guns. Getting between a buffalo and where it wants to go is a good way to become a prairie pancake. Even the plants are trying to kill you. Local weed makes horses go crazy and can poison humans too. Poisonous mushrooms grow after rain, looking exactly like edible ones. The water hemlock, which grows near streams, will kill you faster than a bullet if you mistake it for something edible. Nature in the Wild West doesn't believe in warning labels. And let's not forget the smallest killers. Mosquitoes. They're not just annoying, they carry diseases. Malaria is common, though they call it ague or the shakes. You get it once, and it keeps coming back, making you useless for days at a time with fever and chills. The treatment is quinine if you can get it, suffering if you can't. The flies are beyond description. They swarm in biblical proportions, getting in your food, your eyes, your nose. The stable where you work is fly heaven, and they follow you home like a buzzing cloud of misery. They lay eggs in any open wound, leading to maggot infestations that are as disgusting as they sound. You've seen men's wounds crawling with maggots, which actually eat the dead tissue and can prevent gangrene, but knowing that doesn't make it less horrifying. The prairie itself is hostile. The grass hides holes that can break a horse's leg or a man's ankle. Prairie fires sweep across the landscape faster than a horse can run, turning everything to ash. You can see them coming from miles away, a wall of smoke and flame, and all you can do is run for water or try to start a backfire and hope the wind doesn't change. This is the natural world of the Wild West, a place where the sun tries to cook you, the cold tries to freeze you, the storms try to blow you away, and every living thing views you as either predator or prey. It's not romantic, it's not beautiful. It's a constant, exhausting battle against forces that have been killing things since long before humans showed up and will keep killing long after the last cowboy hangs up his spurs. And tomorrow, you get to go out and face it all again. Because that's life on the frontier, a daily negotiation with death where nature holds all the cards and you're just trying not to fold. 3 months into your Wild West experience, Dodge City shows you what happens when civilization is held together with spit, prayers, and the occasional bullet. It's Saturday night, the cowboys have just been paid, and the town is about to demonstrate why they call it Hell on the Plains. It starts innocently enough. Cowboys who've been on the trail for 3 months arrive with money burning holes in their pockets and thirsts that could drain the Arkansas River. They've been living on beans, sleeping on the ground, and staring at the back end of cattle for so long that Dodge City looks like Paris to them. They want whiskey, women, and a chance to forget that they're probably going to die young and violently. The saloons are ready. They've stocked extra whiskey, hired extra percentage girls, and made sure the piano players know all the popular songs. The gamblers have set up their tables, cards marked and dice loaded. The sporting houses have put on their best perfume to cover the smell of desperation and disease. Everyone's ready to separate cowboys from their money as efficiently as possible. By sundown, Front Street is a circus. Cowboys race their horses down the main drag, firing pistols in the air and whooping like banshees. The city ordinance against firing guns in town is treated as a hilarious joke. Bullets rain down like deadly confetti, punching holes in roofs and occasionally in people who were just trying to buy flour. You hunker down in the Long Branch, figuring there's safety in numbers. The place is packed shoulder to shoulder, the air thick with smoke and the promise of violence. Cowboys are 3 deep at the bar, demanding whiskey like their lives depend on it. The bartender, Big Mike, is pouring with both hands, not bothering with measures, just sloshing liquor into glasses and collecting money as fast as he can. The noise is incredible. Everyone's shouting to be heard over everyone else. The piano player is hammering out Buffalo Gals for the 5th time because it's the only song drunk cowboys can remember the words to. Percentage girls are working the room, getting cowboys to buy them champagne, it's actually tea, at outrageous prices. Every few minutes, someone fires a gun into the ceiling, adding to the collection of holes that let in rain during storms. At the faro table, a cowboy named Texas Jack is on a winning streak. This is dangerous because winning too much makes people suspicious, and suspicious people in the Wild West tend to express their feelings with lead. The dealer, a professional gambler in a brocade vest, is sweating despite the cool evening. He knows that if Texas Jack decides he's being cheated, this night could end with gunplay. The poker tables are worse. Poker is serious business, and accusing someone of cheating is a killing offense. You watch as one player's hand hovers near his gun while he stares at another player's cards. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife, which someone might actually do before the night is over. The other players are carefully not noticing because getting involved in someone else's fight is a good way to catch a bullet meant for someone else. Outside, things are deteriorating. A fight has broken out in front of the Alamo Saloon. Two cowboys are settling a disagreement about whose horse is faster by beating each other senseless. A crowd is gathered, making bets and offering helpful suggestions like, "Hit him with the chair," and "Go for the eyes." The sheriff and his deputies are nowhere to be seen, probably hiding until the worst of it blows over. The fight spreads, as fights do. Someone pushes someone else, who falls into a third person, who takes offense and throws a punch. Soon it's a general melee, with cowboys, townspeople, and random bystanders all swinging at whoever's closest. You see one man hit another with a banjo, which makes a satisfying twang before shattering. Another is using a bar stool as both weapon and shield. Back inside the Long Branch, the chaos outside has inspired the chaos inside. A percentage girl shrieks as a cowboy gets too familiar. Her protector takes exception and expresses his feelings with a bottle to the cowboy's head. The cowboy's friends take exception to that, and suddenly half the saloon is throwing punches, bottles, and furniture. You duck behind the bar with Big Mike, who's protecting the mirror with his body. That mirror cost more than most buildings in town, and he'll be damned if some drunk cowboy is going to break it. He's got a shotgun ready for anyone who gets too close to his precious mirror, and the look in his eyes says he's not bluffing. The sheriff finally makes an appearance, but it's token at best. He and his 3 deputies stand at the edge of the chaos, occasionally grabbing someone who's too drunk to fight back and hauling them off to jail. They're not trying to stop the riot. That would be suicide. They're just trying to keep it from burning down the town. Because that's a real possibility. All these wooden buildings, oil lamps everywhere, drunk people with guns. It's a miracle the town doesn't burn down every Saturday night. You've already seen 2 fires tonight. One when someone knocked over a lamp during a fight. Another when someone thought it would be funny to shoot a burning cigar out of someone's mouth and missed. The prostitutes are having a profitable but dangerous night. Cowboys, flush with cash, are generous, but they're also drunk and violent. You see one sporting girl running down the street, dress torn, pursued by a cowboy who apparently didn't understand that no is a complete sentence. She ducks into a saloon where her madam has hired protection, large men with larger guns who discourage unwanted attention. The respectable side of town has battened down the hatches. Shutters are closed, doors are barred, and families huddle together, listening to the chaos and praying it doesn't come their way. Tomorrow, the church will be full of people asking forgiveness for sins they haven't committed yet, but probably will next Saturday. A gunfight erupts in the street. 2 cowboys have escalated from fists to firearms over something important, like whose mustache is more impressive. They face each other in the classic dueling stance, hands hovering over their guns. The crowd scatters, diving behind water troughs and through doorways. The first shot goes wide, punching a hole in the barbershop window. The second shot catches one cowboy in the shoulder, spinning him around. He fires back wildly, hitting nothing but air and the unfortunate sign for dentistry and tooth extraction. The wounded cowboy decides he's had enough and staggers off to find medical attention or whiskey, whichever's closer. The victor celebrates by buying drinks for everyone in the nearest saloon, as if nearly killing someone over facial hair is something to be proud of. And here it kind of is. He'll tell this story for years, getting better at it each time until he's the hero of an epic battle instead of a drunk idiot who got lucky. The madness continues until dawn. As the sky starts to lighten, the surviving cowboys begin to stagger back to their camps or boarding houses. The streets are littered with broken glass, puddles of various fluids, and at least 3 unconscious bodies that may or may not be dead. Dogs emerge to investigate the aftermath, finding treasures among the debris. The saloon girls count their earnings and tend their bruises. The gamblers tally their winnings and check their guns. The bartenders survey the damage and start calculating how much to charge for repairs. The undertaker, cheerful as always, checks the bodies to see if any are actually dead and therefore billable. By the time you emerge from your hiding spot behind the bar, the sun is up and the town looks like a war zone. Windows are broken, signs are shot up, and there's a horse sleeping in the middle of the street. The respectable citizens emerge blinking into the light, ready to clean up and pretend this doesn't happen every single week. This is law and order in the Wild West, not absent, just flexible. The sheriff could never stop this chaos, so he doesn't try. He just tries to keep it from getting completely out of hand. As long as the violence stays mostly between willing participants and the property damage isn't too extreme, it's considered a successful Saturday night. You help Big Mike clean up the Long Branch, sweeping up broken glass and mopping up substances you don't want to identify. Your ears are still ringing from the gunshots, your clothes reek of smoke and whiskey, and you're pretty sure you've got someone else's blood on your shirt. Just another night in Dodge City. Tomorrow is Sunday, and the same cowboys who were shooting up the town will be sitting in church, hats in hand, asking forgiveness. The preacher will give a sermon about the evils of drink and violence. Everyone will nod solemnly. And next Saturday, they'll do it all over again. Because this is the Wild West, where civilization is a thin veneer over chaos, where law is whatever you can enforce at gunpoint, and where every night could be your last. It's democracy in its rawest form, messy, violent, and somehow still functioning despite everyone's best efforts to destroy it. And you're just trying to survive until morning, one Saturday night at a time. 4 months into your Wild West adventure, your body is starting to file formal complaints. That infected tooth extraction has turned into a chronic jaw infection that makes eating an adventure in pain management. Your back, after months of shoveling horse manure, has developed exciting new ways to hurt. Your hands are more callous than skin. And that persistent cough you developed last month, it's getting worse. And in an era before antibiotics, a cough that won't go away is basically a death sentence filling out its paperwork. But you're not special. Everyone in Dodge City is dying of something. It's just a matter of what gets you first. Let's do a cheerful inventory of the ways the Wild West is trying to kill you and everyone you know. Start with your fellow boarders. Jake, the other stable hand, has been losing weight and coughing up blood. Tuberculosis? Probably, though everyone politely calls it consumption. Like that makes it sound less fatal. He's got maybe 6 months before he's coughing up bits of his lungs. There's no cure, just laudanum for the pain and whiskey for the forgetting. Thomas, the store clerk, finally saved enough to bring his wife out from Ohio. She arrived last month, took one look at Dodge City, and burst into tears. She's now pregnant and terrified, as she should be. The chances of her surviving childbirth out here are basically a coin flip. The local doctor's idea of prenatal care is don't lift heavy things and pray a lot. Mysterious Pete turned out to be a former bank robber, hiding from the law. He was doing fine until someone recognized him from a wanted poster. He died in a shootout with bounty hunters last week, taking 2 of them with him. His funeral was small but respectful. Even outlaws deserve a proper burial. The infrastructure of Dodge City is dying too. Buildings that were thrown up quickly with green lumber are warping, sagging, and occasionally collapsing. The hotel's second floor is starting to separate from the first floor. The gap is wide enough now that you can see daylight through it. Everyone just avoids that part of the building and hopes it doesn't come down while they're sleeping. The economy is showing cracks. The cattle drives are starting to move to other towns as the railroad extends west. Fewer cowboys mean less money flowing through town. The saloons are still busy, but not as busy. Some of the smaller ones are closing. The percentage girls are moving on to fresher towns with more money and less desperation. The violence is getting worse as people get more desperate. Last week, there were 3 murders in 2 days. One over a card game, one over a woman, and one just because someone felt like killing. The sheriff is overwhelmed, the jail is full, and justice is getting quicker and dirtier. Judge Roy Bean's idea of a fair trial is asking if anyone objects before he passes sentence. Your own health is deteriorating rapidly. That jaw infection has spread, giving you constant headaches and fever. The doctor, the real one, not the barber, says it needs to be drained, which involves cutting open your face without anesthesia. You're saving up for the procedure, but you're also drinking more whiskey to deal with the pain, which means you're saving less money. It's a death spiral, and you can feel yourself circling the drain. The cough is worse at night. You lie on your straw mattress, trying not to wake your roommates with your hacking. Sometimes there's blood on your handkerchief. You tell yourself it's just from coughing too hard, but you know better. Lung disease is everywhere out here. Tuberculosis, pneumonia, or just lung fever from breathing in dust, smoke, and God knows what else for months on end. Your diet isn't helping. Months of beans, salt pork, and biscuits have left you malnourished. Your gums bleed, scurvy, your joints ache, probably also scurvy, and you're tired all the time, definitely scurvy, plus everything else. Fresh vegetables are available maybe 2 months out of the year, and they're expensive. You're really dying of malnutrition in the land of plenty. The mental toll is just as bad. You've watched people die in the street. You've seen children waste away from preventable diseases. You've witnessed violence that would traumatize a modern person into therapy for years. But here it's just Tuesday. Everyone's walking around with what would now be diagnosed as PTSD, self-medicating with alcohol and pretending everything's fine. Winter is coming, and you're not sure you'll survive it. Your clothes are threadbare, your boots have holes, and the boarding house is drafty enough to qualify as outdoor sleeping. Last winter, 3 people froze to death in their beds in this very building. The stove only heats the common room, and coal is expensive. You'll spend the winter nights shivering under thin blankets, coughing and praying for spring. But spring might not matter. The infection in your jaw is spreading. You can feel it moving through your skull, a constant burning pain that whiskey can't touch anymore. The doctor says if it reaches your brain, you'll be dead in days. The surgery to drain it will cost 2 weeks' wages, and there's no guarantee it'll work. You might die on the table, or from infection afterward, or just from the shock of having your face cut open while you're awake. This is the reality of the Wild West that Hollywood doesn't show you. It's not a quick death in a gunfight or a heroic last stand. It's a slow, grinding deterioration. It's dying of preventable diseases, treatable infections, and basic malnutrition. It's working yourself to death for wages that barely keep you alive, in a town that's dying around you. The American Dream Frontier Edition is a nightmare. The promise of freedom and opportunity is real, but so is the price. For every success story of a rancher who struck it rich, or a merchant who built an empire, there are hundreds of graves filled with people who came west, looking for better, and found only different ways to die. You think about going home, back east, where there are doctors who wash their hands and vegetables that aren't trying to kill you. But you can't afford the train ticket. You can barely afford your weekly rent. You're trapped in Dodge City, slowly dying of the American dream. The other boarders are planning their escapes. Jake is talking about Colorado, where the mountain air might help his lungs. It won't. Thomas wants to take his pregnant wife back to Ohio before she gives birth. The new mysterious Pete, because there's always a mysterious Pete, is saving up for California, where gold rush dreams go to die. But for most, there is no escape. The Wild West doesn't let go easily. It holds you with poverty, with sickness, with the simple fact that leaving requires money and health, both of which the frontier strips away with ruthless efficiency. So you stay. You get up each morning, check to make sure you're still alive, and head to the stable for another day of horse shit and hard labor. You eat your terrible food, drink your rot-gut whiskey, and try not to think about the pain in your jaw or the blood in your cough. This is how the Wild West ends for most people. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. Not in a blaze of glory, but in a boarding house bed, coughing up pieces of yourself while the town dies around you. The frontier doesn't create heroes. It creates corpses, and you're well on your way to becoming one. The romance of the Wild West is a luxury only the living can afford. For everyone else, it's just another day closer to a pine box and a shallow grave on the prairie, where the wind will erase your marker and the grass will grow over your bones like you never existed at all. Welcome to the real Wild West. It's been trying to kill you since day one, and it's very, very good at its job. So here we are, 4 months into your Wild West adventure, and you're basically held together with whiskey, spite, and whatever the opposite of hope is. Your jaw feels like someone's running a blacksmith's forge inside your skull. Your lungs sound like a broken accordion played by a dying cat. Your back has developed new and creative ways to hurt that modern science hasn't even named yet. And your bank account contains exactly $3 and a button that might be worth something if you squint. You've shoveled approximately 47 tons of horse manure, which is a skill that looks great on exactly 0 resumes. You've dodged bullets, both literal and metaphorical. You've eaten food that would make a prison riot seem reasonable. You've slept in beds that were more wildlife sanctuary than furniture. You've survived bar fights, street brawls, and social interactions that could have ended with you becoming a permanent resident of Boot Hill. The morning you decide to leave, because let's face it, even you're not stupid enough to stay for winter, Dodge City gives you a fitting send-off. There's a gunfight on Front Street, Tuesday special. Someone's horse has gotten into the saloon again, it's Thursday's problem. And the boarding house breakfast is somehow worse than usual. Mabel found a new way to ruin eggs, which is honestly impressive. You pack your worldly possessions, which fit conveniently into a bag the size of a modern laptop case. 2 shirts, both actively decomposing, 1 pair of pants, more patch than pant, a coat, thin as tissue paper, and your gun, because you're not completely insane. Everything you own smells like horse, despair, and broken dreams, perfect for the journey ahead. The train ticket back east costs almost everything you have. 3 months of breaking your back, destroying your health, and dodging death, and you can barely afford to leave. The Wild West's final insult, it doesn't even pay you enough to escape it. At the train station, you see other refugees from the frontier dream. There's a woman in a patched dress holding a baby, her husband nowhere to be seen. Dead, probably, or he ran off, which amounts to the same thing out here. There's a cowboy with 1 arm, the other lost to infection after a minor injury. There's a gambler who looks like he's wearing everything he owns, which he probably is. The train arrives in a cloud of smoke and steam, looking like deliverance itself. It's not fancy, just wooden benches and windows that don't quite close. But compared to Dodge City, it's a luxury suite at the Ritz. You climb aboard, your infected jaw throbbing with each step, your lungs rattling like maracas full of phlegm. As the train pulls away, you get your last look at Dodge City. It sits there on the prairie like a scab on the landscape. All wooden buildings and broken dreams. Smoke rises from chimneys, and presumably from things that shouldn't be on fire, but are. You can see tiny figures going about their daily business of trying not to die. In a few years, the cattle trade will move on, and Dodge City will shrink back into the prairie, another ghost town full of stories nobody wants to hear. You're leaving behind several teeth, thanks Doc Holliday. About 30 pounds of body weight. The dysentery diet really works. Most of your hearing in one ear, gunfight proximity tax. All of your illusions about the romantic West, a significant portion of your lung capacity, your faith in humanity's basic hygiene. But hey, you're alive. That's more than a lot of people who came west can say. You've got stories that would horrify your Eastern relatives. You've got scars that make you look dangerous in a certain light. That light being very dim and from very far away. You've got a newfound appreciation for basic sanitation, modern medicine, and food that doesn't actively hate you. As the train picks up speed, leaving the Wild West behind, you lean back on the hard wooden bench and close your eyes. Your jaw throbs, your lungs wheeze, your empty wallet mocks you. But somewhere under all that misery is a tiny spark of something. Relief? Accomplishment? The knowledge that you looked the Wild West in the eye and said, "I'll probably die here." And then somehow didn't? The other passengers are already sharing their stories. The one-armed cowboy is explaining how he lost his arm, infection from a splinter, romantic. The woman is talking about how her husband died. Fever took 3 days, very unpleasant. The gambler is trying to start a card game because some people never learn. You don't share your story, not yet. It's too fresh, too raw, like an infected wound, which, coincidentally, you have several of. But someday, when you're back east, bathed, fed real food, and reasonably sure you're not dying, you'll tell people about your time in the Wild West. You'll leave out the worst parts, the smell, the despair, the crushing realization that the American dream is often a nightmare with marketing. You'll emphasize the adventure, the characters, the wide-open skies, while forgetting to mention those skies were usually full of dust, bullets, or hail. And maybe, just maybe, some starry-eyed kid will listen to your stories and think, "That sounds amazing, I should go west." And you'll smile, not kindly, and say, "Sure, kid, it's a real adventure." Because if you had to suffer through the reality of the Wild West, the disease, the violence, the food that could be classified as biological warfare, the medicine that was mostly mercury and hope, the social interactions that could end in death, the weather that had a personal vendetta against human life, and the general sense that everything, including your own body, was trying to kill you, well, why should the next generation get a warning? The Wild West, where men were men, women were tougher than men, and everyone died young, violent, and full of regrets. But at least you've got a story to tell. A terrible, horrible, no-good story that'll make your grandkids grateful for indoor plumbing and antibiotics. Goodbye, Dodge City. Hello, civilization. Try not to die of nostalgia. It's the only thing in the Wild West that couldn't actually kill you. The end, or is it just the beginning of your PTSD? Time will tell.